Please call roll.
Braverman.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Bilski.
Yes.
Perry. Here. Cluter.
Yes.
Aaron. Duber.
Yes. Can I have a motion to approve the council meeting minutes of March 17th, 2019?
Motion made.
Thank you.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes? Not, if you call roll, please.
Braverman.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Bilski.
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
Cluter.
Yes.
Duber.
Yes.
Helps.
A motion to declare a 2004 Toro Z-Turn mower model Z587L27 as surplus to be disposed of at the mayor's discretion. I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Anything that's
Replaced it, or?
any other questions, comments? If you call roll, please.
Braverman.
Yes.
Klein.
Aye. Yes.
Perry. Yes. Cluter.
Yes.
Duber.
Yes. Can I have a motion to declare a 1994 Spartan Quality Engine VIN 4SYCT9K06PC009041 as surplus to be disposed of at the mayor's discretion.
So moved. Second.
Questions on this?
That's the old one, the old fire truck? Who's going to get that? Well, I mean, can we sell it?
That's the plan.
I don't know where I'll put it.
Any other comments? You call roll, please.
Braverman.
My grandkids are really excited.
Klein. Yes. Bilski.
Yes.
Perry. Yes. Cluter.
Yes.
Duber.
Can I have a motion to approve the proposal to apply Reclamite asphalt rejuvenating from Pavement Technology, Inc. for Lander, Harvard, Cambridge, Waterford, and Jackson roads in the amount of $53,178.75. Thank you.
Question, where do we have asphalt on Lander? I thought it was all, cement. Where is there asphalt on Lander?
From Southfield Top, or Smithfield area, all the way to Mount Road.
I see cement.
Is this what we've been using, this Reclamite?
Yes, actually, all our new construction, we call for Reclamite through the engineer's office, but it's a product that you can put down. It's also known as rejuvenating, and what it does is put petroleum products back in and returns asphalt to a more usable, it gives it a longer lifespan. So this is ODOT contracts, and they are the game in town.
Okay.
If you call roll, please.
Braverman.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Bilski.
Yes.
Perry. Yes. Cluter.
Yes.
Duber.
Yes. And I have a motion to purchase a 2018 Dodge Ram 3500 from Junction Auto for a total cost of $37,223.35 and authorize the surplus of a 2009 Ford F-350 as trade-in to Junction Auto for a $7,000 credit, making the net cost of the new vehicle $30,223.35.
We have $50,000 in the budget for this vehicle.
Is it just a,
I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
is it just a pickup?
No.
Flatbed? Oh.
Anything else? All right, if you
Didn't we
call roll.
review this once before?
Braverman.
Didn't we review this once before?
Klein.
already do this? Yes. No, he bought a different kind of truck last time.
Oh,
Bilski.
Yes.
Perry. Cluter.
Yes.
Duber.
Yes. Can I have a motion to award the IT portion of the village facilities renovation project to multiple vendors in the amount of $23,800?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, thank you.
You all got the detail of this, right?
Bill?
No?
Doesn't have anything to do at all with anything that was damaged in the lightning? Like all that, any IT stuff?
It's all new stuff.
Isn't this all for the relocation?
Okay. Do we do a motion? Yes, if you,
Braverman? Klein?
Yes.
Bilski?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Luder?
moving on to audience comments relating to agenda items only. Move on to new business, ordinance 2019-10, and ordinance amending certain sections of chapter 1337 of the Code of Village regarding sewage treatment system point of sale inspections. This is on for first reading.
Where did this come from, actually?
Steve?
We
Oh,
got a notice from the Board of Health regarding their requirements, and our old standard had been unoccupied for 30 days, and their standard requires continuous use for 60 days. So what we're doing is conforming our ordinance with what the Board of Health requires, and the standard is whether or not it's been continuously used for 60 days. If it has not been, they can't get a point of sale inspection of the septic system at that time. We give them a conditional permit that says to the purchaser, this will need to be inspected when you're able to comply.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Discussion. Move on to ordinance 2019-11, an ordinance amending sections 23.05 and 1331.09 of the codified ordinances of Orange Village to clarify the entry policy of the village's building department. This is on for first reading.
Anna, we need to add first reading then, please. Next time.
I did, and I forgot to give it to you.
I don't have the amended.
This one I discovered in our code. And this is not uncommon for building codes going back 50 years, 100 years, whatever it is. Our building code, the right of entry, I think, was originally put in place back in like the 20s or something.
Oh.
And it said, they don't need no stinking badges. They can come in without a warrant, without, probable cause. They knock on the door and they're allowed to enter. Well, since the 1920s, there have been some constitutional adjustments by the U.S. Supreme Court, and so we just require either permission, a warrant, or is otherwise authorized by law.
Thank you.
And this similar language we're picking up there in the
No right of entry?
1331, which deals with derelict properties. We've just clarified that permission of the owner is
You should hold off a couple of years before changing that.
for the 100th anniversary of the,
Oh, I'm just, the way things are going, they might put that back in, I mean, that
you're saying that the constitutional law might go back? No.
back.
That's not my recommendation at this time.
Mine either, now that I think.
Any other comments? Moving on to ordinance 2019-12, an ordinance authorizing the village to participate in the Ohio Department of Transportation Winter Contract 2019-2020 for road salt and take any other action necessary to participate in the bulk purchase of road salt for the 2019-2020 winter season and declaring an emergency. This is on for first reading, and the request of suspension of the rules.
Yeah, we have to have this turned in by the end of the month.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
If you call roll on suspension.
Braverman?
Yes.
Klein? Bilski?
Yes.
Perry? Luder?
Yes.
Duber?
Yes.
Buy anything, are we gonna need any?
Well,
Do we have to buy 90% of it?
and is Can I have a motion to pass ordinance 2019-12? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Did you have comments?
Well, we were just discussing this last month, I guess it was. About that there's so much left over.
You may remember that the way the ODOT program works is they require political subdivisions to submit requirements so that ODOT can put their specs together and go out to bid. So they aggregate, both on a district basis and on a county basis, the salt needs of the people who want to participate in the program. It's necessary for the village to say, we're going to need X number of tons of salt.
It's 90%.
You have to buy 90%
then-
to 110%.
And then there's a window of purchase that we're granted, we have to take at least 90% and aren't guaranteed the rate at more than 110%.
Are we reducing our annual request because of what we have?
Yes, we provide a number to them. This year was 1,500, last year was 2,000. So we are reducing our anticipated purchase by 500, but also allows us some flexibility that hopefully the costs are going to drive down because there wasn't a large salt usage, that we can certainly take advantage of lower salt and fill the bid through. So mind you, this will be for the 1920 winter season.
$2020, okay.
Anything else? Okay.
I just, as long as I don't want to see us sitting around with a lot of salt that we're not going to use.
We're gonna always use it eventually.
We can always rub it in the wounds. We can always rub it in wounds.
All right. You can call roll, please.
Braverman. Yes. Klein.
Yes.
Bilski.
Yes.
Harry.
Yes.
Cluter. Duber.
Yes. Yeah. So, I guess before we move on to audience comments, I'd like to, if there's no objection, move the notification of the public hearings that'll be held on April 10th, 2019 for the following variances. Emery Road, Lakes of Orange, Phase 7, M&E Curtis LLC and Curtis Enterprises, Inc., which owns property at 27400 and 27450 Emery Road, respectively, are seeking variance is of 25 feet from the Orange Village zoning code to permit some of the residences that will be built at the Lakes of Orange Phase 7 to be located not less than 25 feet from the proposed development's eastern property line. And also 345 Tahoe Trail, variance amended to extend the entire length of the house. Pulte Group at 345 Tahoe Trail, Orange Village, is seeking a variance from the Orange Village zoning code for a rear yard setback based on the development plan. I wanted to put in a discussion of the Lakes Phase 7. I know Mr. Curtis is here and David's here as well, and wanted to, can you just explain this? Because this was confusing to me a little bit as to, I don't necessarily understand how, and, I just don't understand it, not that it's wrong, but I don't understand how you have the properties, the Phase 7, which was part of the plan after the initial 6 phases, right? They have different zoning codes, or they're zoned differently, correct? But I guess I don't understand how that zoning is being changed essentially without a vote to change the zoning of it.
Because we're not changing the zoning of the developed portion of Phase 7. We're keeping the U1 zoning.
But-
Let me start from the let me start from the beginning. Phase 1 through 6 is in the S1 district. Phase 7, the developed portion, is in the U1 district, and using the clustering provisions.
Can you explain what that is?
So now the question is, how much land, and the third major point is, there's no restriction that the open space has to be in the same zoning classification as the developed portion of the site. So then the fundamental question is, how much land do we need to accommodate Phase phases 1 through 6 in the S1 district, and Phase 7, the developed portion, in the U1 district. Using the cluster section. So the two fundamental questions are, how much land do we need, and how much open space do we need combined? And the land calculation is, based on the development in 1 through 6, is we need 34 acres, gross acres in the S1, and we need 76 acres total, the developed acre and the open space, to get down to the U1 density in the U1 district. We have 113 acres total. What we're doing is saying, we have a lot of land that's associated with the phases 1 through 6 that is not needed. So we can transfer that land effectively to meet the density requirement and the acreage requirement in the U1 for the Phase 7. The reason that's possible is because Phase 1 through 6 only used a smidgen of their allowable density. So the land area they need is much less than the land area they have. And that's the simple answer. They are entitled to 4 units an acre in the 1 through 6. They're only using 1.43 units per acre. So that gives you a lot of extra land that now can be attributed to meeting the acreage requirements and the density requirements of 1 unit per acre and a half for Phase 7. That's the way it works.
Well, what's the spirit of that? I mean, the spirit of why we do that is appearance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it, so can you comment on that?
Well, yes and no on the appearance. First of all, the open spaces are contiguous to each one of the areas, so they're certainly related to each one of the areas. And then in the U1, the S1 district, I'm assuming, expecting a much higher density, allows for a lot of what you would call small fragment areas to be considered as part of the open space. That's less true in the U1 district. But if I need, in the U1 district, 30 acres of open space, I get that by about 10 acres that's assembled at the western end of the Phase 7 property, and then pick up 20 acres from the U6 right adjacent to it that's transferred to meet the density requirement.
Get the map.
So
that was so that they
Steve sent you
It was sent in
last Friday that had all this,
that had the
Isn't it?
yeah.
and Dave Hunt's report.
Look at the map, I read that.
Yeah, and maybe we have another discussion about it when everybody has
So,
it, but-
I've thought about the spirit question. I think it does because of the location of the open space and the contiguous of the open space, and naturally,
New York City and Central Park kind of thing, right?
what, pardon?
New York City and Central Park, that's not the spirit that we're looking for.
Well,
Question.
Well, in this case, since it meets the code and since really the large assembled open space is common to both of these areas, and that's the minimum, I mean, we have far more open space than the minimum that's required, about twice as much. But since the minimum required is located contiguous to both of those, I think the spirit you can say it works very well.
I think we have to digress a little bit back to what the intention of the clustering aspect of the zoning code was, which was to allow for less land to be consumed by buildings and more land to be utilized for open space and green space. And by enabling it to be more contiguous, we can protect some more green space and more of the trees and so forth and wetlands that already exist within the area of this particular site. This project kind of takes advantage of that opportunity and graphically demonstrates how it really works.
So just so everybody, so the U1 is acre and a half per unit.
30 acres, and then you can do the cluster.
And how many acres is the Phase 7 of the Lakes of Orange?
2.
So it's
in the U1 district.
22, so it's less than the amount of what the clustering provision is.
In the U1 district.
The U1 district.
Requirement that all of the acreage of a U1 cluster development be in the U1 district.
But does it have to be of this, in the same project?
It is in the same project.
But
It's
that's-
under common ownership.
Okay, but what makes it the same project? Is it common ownership, or is it?
Common
is it-
ownership,
is it-
and this
or
is phase
is it-
7, after there's been 1 through 6.
And the-
I understand that, but like, I guess my question is, if there was a separate developer, would the same thing be able to be done for the Phase 7 Lakes of Orange?
If there was no ownership interest in the adjacent area to get up to 30 acres,
So if this was not called Lakes of, and I'm just asking this because I literally don't understand this. But if this wasn't called Lakes of Orange Phase 7 and still owned by Mr. Curtis, but it's, Rivers of Orange Phase 1,
yeah.
would the same situation be able to occur?
Not unless they could acquire the additional 8 acres that they would need to make 30 acres.
So,
Or meet the open space requirement.
but in order to, and so I guess what makes this a Phase 7 if it's not part of the original plan and there was a special zoning of this Phases 1 through 6?
This is,
Well, it was a very non-traditional, I guess.
Let's imagine, there's more S1A property south that fronts on Miles Road. Let's imagine that they wanted to add residences down there. They haven't proposed it, but let's imagine that they wanted it. That would be Phase 7, right? You can add to a development based upon ownership and zoning that allows it.
and this,
If your position, if your policy position is that the village should not allow a U1 development, cluster development, on less than 30 acres in the U1 district, we would need to change the code to say that.
So hold on a second. Just, if you could have a seat for a few minutes, you'll get your, you could chat, I
wanted to say something to maybe try and help here. Okay.
go ahead, sure.
The part of, I think I understand the concern that you have. Part of.
It's not even necessarily a concern, it's I'm not understanding this, how,
Here, the one.
this could be a Brandon issue.
One fact that nobody's mentioned yet that might help explain how this is part of the same development. I think that's your question. Is it simply part of the same development because we call it that, or is there something that makes it that?
Because there's a walking path that goes through it.
This property is going to be part of the homeowners association, same homeowners association as Phases 1 through 6. The common areas are going to be owned by that homeowners association. So in that sense, it is contiguous, it's attached, and all of the properties ultimately are going to be under the same control of the same homeowners.
But there's no way to drive from Phase 7 to Phase 1 through 6.
Through internal streets, you're right.
So that's why I guess I don't understand necessarily how it's a phase, the way I logically think of it, which could be illogical, is that to be another phase of the same project, it has to be basically part of the same project besides just kissing it.
Topographically, you'd have the same issue if you expanded the residential portion off of Miles, because I don't believe you can get through from the existing development to the Miles Road portion, but you could definitely do a residential development off of Miles Road. It's zoned S1A. It may not be the best use of it, but it would be legally permissible.
one of the beauties of the planned development like this is so you don't have to have that internal circulation that goes all the way through the property and disrupt some of the open space and natural areas that you want to preserve. And this is not unusual, that you don't have complete internal circulation within a planned development. And then the second thing is, that's not unusual, is what's happening here is just because it was not identified as Phase 7 at the beginning of the project, it's not unusual to have an additional phase added because the developer was able to acquire some land and make it work, just like Steve was saying if you did it down on Emery Road. It was an unidentified phase, but it doesn't make it unworkable or unreasonable or not in compliant with the zoning code.
Let me just, are you asking whether the same green space is being counted twice?
Not that it's being counted twice, but that the green space from the from phases 1 through 6 is being used to allow for basically a lack of green space in phase 7.
That's a true statement. That's a true statement.
That's because there's excess green space in 1 through 6.
But, yeah,
They consolidated the
Well, understand, they could also, if they wanted to start over and do a 30-acre development, they have the right to detach acreage from phases 1 through 6 because it's not required for the usage, and consolidate it with the 22-acre parcel and thereby get their 30 acres.
Would that still accommodate the acreage?
That's the point. That's the point of Dave's analysis, that you don't need all of the acreage that was a part of the open space for the first 6 phases. You don't need it all. And therefore, we could make them go through the exercise of consolidating the acreage and doing a separate parcel for the U1 development as a cluster development. We didn't require that. And it's not required by the code. And what they proposed fits with what the code currently provides. If this was not the intention, we would require a code change to say you have to have 30 acres that are zoned U1. Then they'd come in and ask to zone that area U1 so they could do the development. But
Will you explain the U1 cluster, just so I'm...
Sure. You have to have sufficient open space.
Right.
And you have to have 30 acres to propose it.
And then...
It doesn't say that. It doesn't say you have to have 30 acres in the U1 zoning district. It says you have to have 30 acres. They have 114 acres.
And so the U1 cluster means that you can
do something like that.
Okay.
Right. The density turns out to be 1.5 acres per,
So
1.5 units.
if they had
1 unit per 1.5 acres.
To build section 7?
They'd have to buy land off.
Right, they couldn't use that land. It's kind of a lend-lease deal between the same owner. I mean, it's really,
let me,
Consolidated the land, so it's really,
let me make one more comment about what this does. Hard to speculate what might happen if you didn't go ahead with phase 7. If you look ahead 15 or 20 years. But in phase 7, you have excess land, which presumably means, even though it might be difficult and challenging, it could be developed in the future. This is now getting rid of any excess land. You're using it all to meet the zoning requirements. So you now have no excess development rights anywhere in this phases 1 through 7. Where you did have additional development rights without phase 7 that could have been used later.
that was land that backs up to the highway, so that doesn't really...
Well, it's natural, not totally.
You've got the church properties on either side of this property.
So
There's some residential over there, too.
So I have a question. So if, for phases 1 through 6 then, if they had wanted to go ahead and put almost twice as many homes because there was excess land, could they have made, I don't know, how many houses are in phase 1 through 6? How many lots?
139.
39, so could they have made 250 clusters there because it would have... 400?
Yeah, there could have been significantly greater density under the zoning code. The original, I remember plans way back that called for connected townhouses way back in the day.
That was 2 separate entrances to the development, to the 100 acres. One was going to be traditional single family, if you would, the other was going to be townhouses, but all part of the Lakes Orange, or whatever we were going to call it at that point, with two separate entranceways. So here we have two entranceways actually in phase 1 through 6, and a third entranceway, but not contiguous, which is good because then we don't have cut-through traffic. We could have actually managed to do it, but we didn't want to cut through traffic, and come in off of Emory with its own cul-de-sac.
And then there's also the Miles Road fronting
The Miles Road
property.
piece that will be developed at some future point.
That's why this works.
You're saying
I'm sorry?
the miles will be developed at?
Yeah,
At some
but,
point, Miles Road, that acreage has never been included into this acreage.
but-
We have about 6 acres there.
remember, for density purposes, they'd have to pay attention to the fact that there's not extra acreage available out of phases
That's-
1 through 6 any longer, because
Right.
those have been consumed by phase 7.
So that was why I would just kind of, that I'm confused at what you just said, that that it could be developed in the miles frontage when it sounds like everything's being used up.
We don't count that acreage. That 6 acres approximately has never been included into the other acreage.
1 through 6.
Anything.
Be Phase A.
Separate piece of
It may
land.
be phase 8, it may be
Could be something else altogether.
commercial, it could be.
Be the Lakes of Orange development. It could be a commercial.
What is that
development.
zoned as now?
S1A,
Commercial, isn't it?
which is the mixed-use
Yeah.
residential and commercial.
Commercial.
It had a previously approved footprint for.
It was an office building.
About 40, 60,000 square foot of retail and office space at one time. We just never developed that. And that didn't use any of the acreage in the residential portion.
You have a timeline for phase 7?
As soon as we get it approved.
And
How many units are going to go in Phase 7?
There's about 50, I don't know, it's 50 or 51 units. But it takes about a year between drawing the plans, getting all your stuff, approvals, plus the village approvals. So it's realistically about a year away.
And since we're supposed to be talking about the variances, let's add this to the following. The development of Phase 7 has been approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. What the variance request is seeking to change what has been approved and is permitted as of right. They could submit for a building permit as soon as they get their, wetlands and everything in order. What they are requesting is to push the development further back from the property owner who's immediately to the east of the development, 400 feet from Emory Road, and come closer to the sideline of the property. The east side.
On the street.
The buildings will come closer to the eastern property line, but far enough back that it won't impact the property owner. And something happened at the hearing that I haven't seen in my years of experience, which is neighbors came in and objected, heard what was going on, discovered that the proposed new plan was less impactful on the neighbor, and everybody said, no, we're good with it. So they withdrew their objection because they recognized the revised plan was superior to the initial plan, even though it required the technical setback variance.
But the revised back in the day?
No,
The
this one.
current plan,
Current revisions, okay.
Current plan had the road over more and houses on both sides.
The variance of the 25 feet, we agreed at that meeting in planning and zoning that no home structure, like part of the house itself, will be in that additional 25 feet, that we agreed that it would be only open structures like decks, similar of nature like that. So the houses won't be any closer. It's so that, because the land does fall off, it will allow for decks or raised patios that have to have some foundation to do so without coming in for a bunch of variances as they're built along the way. This way it also pushes the units further away from the home on the east.
It doesn't have the same requirements as so it's not plowed by the village. What's that?
This is, these units here are kind of
So we won't be, the village will not be plowing.
looks slightly bigger, there's singles. These are due.
Then there's not a sidewalk requirement either?
There still is.
There still is for,
All subdivisions.
Private roads don't require them, but we're considering it at this point.
Variance allows for them to put decks on the back without having to come and get variance. We gave them a blanket variance and said, okay, for the whole thing, and said, okay, that's all that you can build back there is decks. And you can't enclose it, you can't
Wire it.
feed it, you can't do anything, but.
so, what'd you say, Steve?
I think sidewalks are required on the private drive.
Okay.
So how is it different if it's, again,
I don't know the answer. If, like, because in Lakes of Orange phases 1 through 6, some of it is private and some of it is not.
Right.
So all the property would be paid.
So who designates that? The developer?
Well, that's what they submitted to
They
us.
submitted the proposal that Orange Lake Drive would be dedicated right-of-way, and then
Right.
there would be private drives off of that. And the village agreed to that proposal. We agreed to maintain Orange Lake Drive, and
Which means the people on Orange Lake Drive will get the brush picked up and their leaves, but the other streets won't, in the same development.
There's a sidewalk that's required in,
I thought there was in all subdivisions, but I think it's.
so you can have a subdivision that you can just not want it, you can just keep it private, and then you don't have to adhere to the subdivision regulations regarding.
we have construction requirements for, safety services
Right.
that would need to be met. They would need to be able to get the fire, it's always the fire engine that we talk about.
Roads are constructed the same way.
Yeah.
And they're installed under the village supervision by the engineer through his inspections. He approves all the construction drawings, just like it would be if it was a public street.
They're just not dedicated.
And the street has to be completed before an occupancy permit can be issued for home.
I'm just curious about this. I mean, I'm not like throwing a fit about it or anything. I literally didn't understand. But I know that it would be nice if there was sidewalks on there to conform with everything else that's around here, and it would be nicely tied into the all-purpose recreational trails.
That will have to be an alternate.
Well, I know, but it would be a nice,
Well, couldn't that be something that the homeowners association might want to consider doing when they get to that
We'll
point?
have to consider doing the piece on Emory if we have enough money.
I'm just saying with the purpose of the developments tying into it these days, it's my own 2 cents.
Did you look up the sidewalk requirements?
Into the phase 1 through 7, which does have sidewalks, and will have sidewalks around on Orange Lake Drive, which they will be able to then utilize to walk over to the recreation facilities, as opposed to driving around the lawn.
Anybody have? There? Well, I guess it's only me, apparently, but anybody have questions?
We're going to have the public hearing next week. Yeah.
April 10th. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody, for showing up. Moving on to,
Both sides of all streets.
This is the subdivision regulations.
Well,
for-
this is a subdivision.
No, it's not a public subdivision.
to audience comments relating to matters which advance the good of the village. Anyone? Committee reports and comments by council members. Ms. Perry?
Potential new finance committee member who's friends with Edward Birch, who referred him to serve on finance. His name is Kai Yi, but he goes by Hines as his first name. He came to his first finance committee meeting tonight, and the committee would be happy to have him on board, so. On the first house next to the sled hill. I think he introduced himself to everybody this evening. And if we can vote him in next week, he thinks he can attend the council meeting.
Was there a vacancy, or?
We have like set number of seats or
Okay,
anything.
I wasn't sure if there was a set number.
We've never had it formalized to that level.
And if the demand is so great that there's too many people, then we'll shut down.
We'll get Bob to build a bigger table for us.
There's most years I've served.
Blue leaf.
Years that I've served, we've had a very difficult time getting community members involved. In finance, it's always been council people who serve as members because of lack of interest in the community. So we're pretty excited to have him come aboard.
All right, thank you.
Business owner. He owns multiple businesses, one of which is Atani Restaurants, which is both in-state and out-of-state. I think he said he had 6 or 7 of them. Yeah, the one at Golden Gate. We all have well, Kathy and I had fond memories of.
Did you see Otani's?
Yeah.
I used to go to that place. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
One was on 161, too.
He has a good eye for finance. He has a lot of business experience. Our municipal finances are quite different. He's
That's your sharing.
member of the committee. So, next week, I think I my email with his name. I sent you his, I forwarded
Anna
his.
needs it.
And, is there anything, I have his contact information, I could connect you with him if there were any questions you wanted to ask. And one more thing, the garden meeting for this is going to be held, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday. Start a new year. Probably, because there are always problems. Different problems every day.
Mr. Braverman?
Comments this evening?
Mr. Bilski?
A couple of things. It came to my attention a couple months ago for all the vast number of people in the audience here. They don't know the name of the clerk of council. So maybe we can get a name plate for that said individual.
I have an extra one here, you should have mine.
So as of April 1st, we have 2 different new policies that are in effect. Is that correct, with the plastic bags and the do not knock? Has there been any feedback on plastic bags with anybody?
Did you go to Cooper's Hawk? Because I had 2 reports of plastic bags there.
Oh, my God.
I've spoken with dozens of residents who are very happy about the do not knock registry.
Topics. I just want to say that article that was about the do not knock, no, the article that was about the plastic bags,
Yes.
that was pretty bizarre, the Sweeties Big Fun.
Yes, especially since I spoke to the owner about that. Yes.
They were talked to before it was.
Right, the general manager was not spoken to, but I did speak to the owner, who was very happy about this.
Right.
Yes.
That article did not reveal that.
No.
Your own plastic bag into the place?
Yes.
The YOPB?
Issuance of plastic bags by the
The do not knock, I don't know how many more have come in, but there were over 140.
We're over 200 now. That's great. Oh, yeah. Everybody I spoke to is very excited about that, and good job there.
Some folks can't register by computer or whatever, taking the phone call, anybody that asks for it.
And remind me, what is the latest a solicitor who is registered that's coming to a door that's not on the do not knock can come? Is it 7:30?
No.
No, we changed it to 7.
7.
I think it's 7.
Okay.
That was changed. That's good.
We changed it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes.
It was only like 4 council meetings that we discussed it.
You were napping at that one.
It was behind the high lift that was over there. He probably didn't hear it. Thank you. Planning Commission met last night, reviewed a number of items. Nothing of real significance. The kind of most interesting conversation regarded the future sign for, directory sign for the building department and service department. And I assume that Mayor talked to Bob about.
He knows all about it. He's ready to answer all your questions, John. Last night.
The only other, there were no real zoning issues discussed last night. Several new houses on Lakes of Orange and in the Lakes of Orange development, and finally got an approval for the signage at for the new Spectrum store that's going in to replace Verizon at the shopping center on Chagrin Boulevard.
And we approved a basketball court addition.
Well, we had previously approved the basketball court addition. We just, they expanded it slightly.
And also planning and zoning agreed that we have the water after backup legislation for council to pass that outlaw's powerful lawyer.
Yeah.
Where? Where's the barbed wire?
It's over at Beachmont.
Well, they can keep it if they had it before.
Right now, that's the only place that we're aware of its existence, but we don't want to encourage anybody else to install it because if we can get rid of it, all the better. Just as a side note, I mentioned I will be speaking at Design Columbus on Monday. It's a program put on by the Columbus Construction Specifiers Institute and the United States Green Building Council, and making a presentation on the Orange Goes Green certification program.
Beautiful presentation, very detailed, very sophisticated.
This is no amateur hour here. And that's all, folks.
Thank you to the police and everybody who circulated the do not knock signs. I've had some really positive reaction from that, and I have one on my house. So somebody said, "What is this? Read it." So yeah, I'm thrilled personally, and I know a lot of people are, so thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to thank the engineer and the service director and the mayor who met with a group of my residents on my street because we have drainage issues. I appreciated you meeting with us, and we'll see where that takes us. What else do I, I've had some people phone me, really senior people, who are having trouble getting their rubbish out. Yeah, but it's not working, is it? I mean, is it or is it? Because Beechwood was approached, and somebody showed me this, senior rubbish assistants. Are you 80 years or older with no one in to help you? And they're doing it in cooperation with volunteers from the Village in the Heights. What's that? I didn't even know what that was. And the city of Beechwood. What can we do, if anything? So should I just have these people call?
Well, we need to have volunteers that will do these things. But
Well, we've run into this before, I think, and we ran into this a few years ago.
if we don't get volunteers to agree to do
But then, so can we not help these people? One couple in particular said, we're both on canes, we can't get it out, we can't bring it in. What can we do? And I said,
we're only offering the volunteer program. We have not yet dedicated any paid staff to do that.
well, could we or no? I don't think it's going to be a lot of people.
Snow plowing
Yeah.
service.
I don't think it's going to be a lot of people, but I felt very bad when they said, we can't get the trash out today, it's Monday, and we can't bring it in. And, you know.
Feel bad about it too.
So tell me what I should do or say.
Go take their garbage.
We need.
No, please, don't be offensive. Because you're nudging that age yourself, and you might need help. And you possibly did don't do that. That is very offensive, please.
At this moment, all we can do is the volunteer program. If you're thinking of starting another program that's going to require resources and personnel, we need to talk and think about it.
Okay, so can the people then call the town hall and say, I need help, and then poor Anna's got to try, do you have any volunteers? No, she does, that's the trouble.
We can put out another notice.
From what I recall, we didn't have volunteers because we didn't have requesters.
No, I think we did. I think Anna dealt with it. I think we did.
A couple volunteers.
Some, but they weren't doing anything ever. From my recollection, which could be.
Well, no, people will volunteer to help you to get your medicine, but it's not something they're going to do every single week. And that's where we're running in, and I've called people, if if you break your leg or something, we'll help you for that time. But it can't be, volunteers can't do this every Sunday night, run to people's houses to take out the trash and then Monday.
So can we look at this then as a council? I don't know what to tell these people. Are they going to sit with their trash in the house, or they're going to? What are they going to do with it? What if they have no families to help them? What if they what? Have no family, no family member who can come in and help to do this. What if they don't have one? No. What if they don't, and they can't get it out in an expeditious fashion? Yes.
Other governmental agencies, there are agencies that assist with the aging population, and I would look into those situations. Adult Protection Services?
I don't know, let us think about it.
Well, I have a suggestion that might be helpful here. We have a Boy Scout troop in Orange, in the Orange School District, Troop 309. I would think that might not be a bad approach to them to see if...
Girl Scouts too, right?
And to see if there might be some assistance that could be provided through their group.
That's an idea.
So would we approach them? How?
Yeah.
Okay.
Send the survey out to, and yeah, it's not going to be like tomorrow, but we can see
No,
what
okay.
other communities are doing.
Go to...
Anna will do that. Anna, will you go ahead and see what other communities are doing, and we can go.
Well, I've got this from Beechwood. Now, I can show you that, because somebody gave it to me.
Go online and make a referral to Adult Protective Services. The county runs a program
They gave it to me.
that has, and provide an intake and analysis to see what help is needed and refer them to resources. It's provided by the county.
Okay.
Pardon me?
How many homes do you think?
It's not a lot. It's not a lot because people are not living that long. But those who are, they just can't do it. I mean, they feel bad that they can't do it.
Probably a lot of things we could help with, but let us.
I was thinking maybe half a dozen at the moment that have approached me at tops.
I think the question is how much will it cost us to have somebody come in early on Monday morning?
I don't know. I guess.
Years ago, when we had problems with wasn't quite an elderly resident, but somebody with mental illness that needed help, and we
put together a hoarding task force.
It was the hoarders, yeah.
The end result was there are social workers out there ready to help people. It's really not in our realm to do it, but I think that whatever family you're talking to needs to be connected with the social worker. It's probably through the county.
If you look at the website, there are resources available for such as home support, meals, medical costs, financial
I
consulting.
think they're looking for that. I think they've got that. I think they just want help. I think they just want their trash rolled in and out, and they've always done it, that's all.
I don't know what home support is, but I would assume home support might include such things as waste management. So, I mean...
Don't know.
It's just an immediate option while we chew this around.
I think you need to chew it. Yeah, it would be a nice thing to do. I don't think it's going to cost a foot. Are you up? Is Bob not thrilled with that idea? In University Heights, they had the great idea. They have these little scooter things that beetle up and down the driveways. Do they? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why they didn't want to merge.
And I think we should see if there's Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts.
That sounds like a neat idea.
Well, I can reach out to the Boy Scouts.
You can? Well, that would be very nice, yeah. Okay, and the Red House, you told me when I talked about it last time, I was told that property had sold, and you said no, there was wetlands or something.
I said that whoever was interested in it, whoever bought it, came in to talk to Bob McLaughlin about it. There's a lot of wetlands on the property, so Bob wasn't sure that they would be able to build.
Civil engineers were out. They've been surveying it, so I think that's sort of, as I understand it, a young couple are interested.
Nice lot.
Yeah, if they can get it above the water. Yeah. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
So can we, going back to the sidewalk in the public, or in private development,
Require them even on.
can we require them to have sidewalks?
Change the ordinance, but
Yes, you could if you change the ordinance.
That would be my, I think that would be my request. I just don't know why it's, like, for example, where I live, it's private. It's, why would that not have the same requirements as, I mean, it's still a development. You wouldn't know that it's private, with the exception that, we have to pay for our own snow plowing. But like, no, we don't. But, and it should. I think from a safety perspective, especially on these smaller developments where there's these quick turns and the developer typically makes the streets narrower than others, I don't know why we give leverage.
You still sick?
No, I'm sick again.
Are you really? Yeah.
We got cold. Playing outside now.
The requirement is
No.
for the,
Hang around with my grandkids too much.
Ugh, they're little germ bugs.
Orange Tree, they can't put inside.
it's prior to, right. But if Orangewood was in now, they would have to do it.
Right.
So, the requirement if it's both sides on one side, but I would like to keep it consistent.
That would be nice if you could do that for me. No, not for me, for
Request that we
the
draft
town.
them.
Up in court.
One day it could be us.
End up in court.
Someday we'll be just like Beechwood. You know what? It's like
Can this
things
be
after.
done to apply to his project?
and approval.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying that there's going to be more of these kinds of developments
Be night.
throughout Orange, and then, and then if we're looking at, potential development of the Pinecrest residential, I don't want that to be an issue there. I think that we should make it, uniform throughout all the
And
developments.
those are going to be all private streets in there too, so maybe this is
I
necessary.
don't know, When's that coming?
So that would be my request.
Those development.
We met with Curtis last week.
They
And
never give up. They just never give up. They don't?
Way going to
Okay.
residents, does that require sidewalk?
I don't know, you're the legal eagle of the
That's the
group.
concern, is
That's not a
that
street.
when you get off of a street, well, what is
Get a proposal. Want more information.
If a street has a name,
Is something we can deal with?
drive, avenue, road, boulevard, oval, circle.
Well, think of your development. You would have sidewalks all the way up? No. The proposal.
But it should.
They have sidewalks?
We used to have trails in Landerwood, Glen, they took them away.
Those were trails. I'm talking about sidewalks next to what is the common driveway.
I don't know, there's room over there.
Is there room?
I don't think there's-
I mean, does it make any sense?
That's
when
the
you-
developer's concern to figure
Well,
it
but
out.
if, at the planning end, you could create room.
Sidewalks, it may not make any sense whatsoever to require that.
But I can see on one side at least.
Why would it not make sense to
Because you've got consecutive driveways. Help me out. What it would look like.
When you go to privates, the advantage of a developer going to private is, one, it changes the density. They don't have to, so they can put actually more homes in because they're not required to put sidewalks. The right-of-ways are different off the center, and the right-of-way covers utilities and all that other stuff. So what it allows them, they have shorter driveways, so the frontage of their garage is there. If you make, for example, put sidewalks in your development, and you park a car in every single apron, you can't use a sidewalk without going around every single car that's parked in your driveway. So what they do by doing that pushes the car back, so you might find yourself in for variances for setbacks in the back. And then essentially take it and use like Lakes of Orange, where you have Lake Mead, that area there, by making that private, those homes push farther back. It makes it non-developable along Orange Lake Drive, because now it becomes a density issue. And then, you know, at that point, you might as well just tell them to put a dedicated roadway where they do have to. Randy's right about one thing, when they put the roads in, the roads are constructed like they are here, but that's it.
Well, but they
Nothing
don't-
else
they
is,
don't
the
have
storm
places to put
sewers
the
aren't the
snow.
same, you know, he doesn't have to put trees in, you know, and all kinds of things. It is exactly right. Other things that happen is, where do you put the snow? You got snow plowers coming in, and now you got these short driveways with sidewalks, where they put the snow for snow removal. Does that answer anything?
Well, I mean, just have to develop a private street differently then? And then take that into account?
You wanna, if you wanna put it in, he's gonna have to go to the drawing table and the developer and figure out how his density will work.
The other issue that is cited, and again, I would recommend that we have a conversation with Dave Hart before we try to put something in that, from a development standpoint, may not make sense. Yeah, you have these locations where there are no cars. You have at the end of a cul-de-sac, you're gonna have sidewalks going all the way around when there's nobody coming back there. I mean, it's very different than when you have a public street that's being used as a thoroughfare.
Yeah, but how's that
to go from
different,
front-
how's that different than a street in Orangewood that has a cul-de-sac?
Orangewood doesn't have streets, but.
Orange Hill.
No, Orange Hill.
Orange Hill.
With sidewalks.
No, I'm talking about Orangewood. Like, why, I mean, Orangewood versus Orange Hill, what's the difference there? Nothing. And one has
They're all
sidewalks in the.
dedicated roads.
No, I'm saying,
The standard was changed.
what's the difference in the actual look of that? Nothing. They're the same way, they still have their cul-de-sacs and all that. Walks and it works great, and the other doesn't.
Their setbacks are greater.
Well,
If you couple Village of Orange, Stonebrook,
And Village of Orange should have it. And it probably doesn't because they probably developed too many homes in there and didn't make it available to do that. But I don't think that's proper.
I'm not gonna debate that it's not safer to have sidewalks down.
Well-
Just call it the reality of it.
if,
Purpose that we put them in to the dedicated. Why did we require that?
It has to do with what we require in terms of setbacks and area to get pedestrian traffic away from sufficient, volume of vehicles.
So it's a safety aspect.
If the regulation,
Hang on, so if it's a safety aspect, right? Like, is that why we did it, is because it's safer?
I don't know. I wasn't here at the time. I assume so.
We put it in, you weren't here?
Chief, how many pedestrian accidents have we had on the private streets?
No, I'm asking, like, you were here when we changed
I don't know if
it.
he was, I just remember saying.
Really?
That we don't have trails throughout the village or sidewalks, but we're required in every new subdivision. I thought that was the weirdest rule. So, it is required in subdivisions, I just didn't know that it was dedicated street versus private street.
And we redid the subdivision regulations in '99. But we took, that's when George Smerigan was rewriting the code, and we took existing regulations. That goes back to before I was here.
Everybody's always agreed that we like the fact that there's required sidewalks in all developments, right? Maybe, no?
when Orangewood was platted,
Request is that we talk to Dave Hart and see what we could do about
Sidewalks on the private.
sidewalks on private streets.
can I add something into that? In terms of design, which is really the issue, the developer, knowing that there is a requirement for that item in their design, has to take it into account in the layout of their units.
Of course.
So all we have to do, if that's something that we desire, then we build it into the code, and is considered for the design. It's hard to go back and retrofit in the environments where it isn't.
I'm not asking to. I don't expect that should be done. I'm not asking for it to be done. I don't think it should be done retro.
The easiest way to do it would be to prohibit private streets and just say, we're only going to have public streets, only dedicated streets will be.
Well, that was kind of another, so why do we have private streets.
Policy choice was made years ago to not incur the ongoing expense of maintenance, snow plowing, and replacement,
Sewer, sanitary.
repair, replacement, all the
So do you,
infrastructure.
do you like private streets, Bob?
I don't have to take care of them. We don't have to spend our infrastructure.
Them, and they don't bother him.
They don't get public service, and it always comes up to the developer. That's the developer's choice. He knows that he can take, if he puts a private street, he can have a density of, come in and maybe get 200 homes in there. If he goes to private streets, a public dedicated road, and takes the right of way.
He loses it. He's losing, yeah, he's
Maybe
losing.
he only puts 160.
Yeah.
Do you have more problems with like trash and all that stuff in the private streets? With, that the trash companies are running over lawns that they're not picking up, it's too difficult for them to maneuver around?
Certainly, because the cul-de-sacs are tighter. Not on main roads, no, not really, but on the cul-de-sacs, yeah. But
They just back up and down my drive. Back up and.
Yeah, I mean,
One time, and this was probably over 20 years ago, I was approached to design sidewalks for Orangewood.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the homeowners association voted it down. They decided they didn't want it. And so that was that.
wanting it, it was, they didn't want to pay for it.
Well, that was their option at that point, if you want.
Sidewalks in Orangewood, the issue was, you couldn't assess everybody for sidewalks that were just on some properties.
Well, the plan was that it was going to be on one side of the street.
Didn't like that.
And the people whose property was going to be on, one person in particular, did not have anything to say.
Can we look then also at street?
It doesn't, it's going to make the project very, uneconomical, but a little more difficult because of the density.
Well, I'm sorry that we don't always have to
I don't think that would necessarily affect the density.
on land and throw more concrete on grass and trees. Like, I don't know, we don't have to always accommodate a developer who wants to keep developing and cluster in things, stuff that,
I don't think it would affect density that much.
Wouldn't?
my own opinion.
I don't think it has to, it's about the intelligence of design, of how you lay it out and take advantage of whatever the opportunity may be there. But it's the knowing of what the requirements are in advance that allows the designer, the engineer, to lay out the properties in such a way that these things can be accommodated.
I don't think we want dedicated streets like in the Pinecrest residential.
So the Pinecrest, that was my next question. What's the status with Pinecrest residential?
They came in with 393 units.
Who did?
Rickety.
Okay. Does he control the land?
He has the agency, he has the authority to represent.
And okay, and what's he looking for?
393 units, combination of 300 apartments and the rest townhouses, villas, single-family.
And how many is it currently allowed for?
240?
And he wanted
What?
93. First time he came in, wanted 1,000, second time was 500, now we're down to the bare minimum of 390.
Everything's bare minimum. How high are these buildings that they,
4 stories?
have there been,
He said
have there
4 or
been,
5.
have there been?
4 stories plus the parking deck.
The one that we can go to. I'll let you know about the next one.
Underneath.
But we can't have, we don't want those to be dedicated streets, so we can't.
Why?
Why? I can't imagine Zugen and the trucks going through Pinecrest to get to that development. We don't want Pinecrest residential to be dedicated streets.
I don't know, Pinecrest would want us going through there with our salt trucks.
Yeah, we don't want that.
We could look at those issues. I would appreciate it. And at some point in the next, I don't know, 2 months, I'll probably do mandatory recycling for businesses, but I'll do that on another day.
Something happened already?
Okay. So anyways, I don't have anything else. I'm tired of talking. Can I have a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing the confidential medical condition of a public official, matter which cannot be discussed, be pursuant to law?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, thank you.
We got all the seconds today.
Perfect game.
Perfect game.
Klein?
Yes.
Bilski?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Krieger? Duber?